Hello and welcome to Jurassic Reviews. Continuing in our Godzilla King of the Monsters month celebration, today we'll be taking a look at the NECA Godzilla 2019. This figure stands about 6.5 inches tall at its spines and is 12.5 inches long from head to tail. Before we start, here's a quick look at the packaging. Here's the front of the box where you can see a picture of Godzilla and the MonsterVerse logo. Here's one side of the box where you can see it says that it has 25 points of articulation. And here's the other side where it has some background information on the movie. Here's the back of the box where you can see another picture of Godzilla and the other monsters NECA is releasing. Unfortunately, no King Ghidorah yet. The art it shows here is from different character posters released from the movie. I would have liked to see this as the primary art for this one, sort of how the NECA 1962 box uses promotional art. And finally, here's the inside of the box. Moving on to the figure itself, it is very similar to the 2014 version, at least the sculpt that is used. The main difference, outside of the design changes for Godzilla between the two movies, is the paint. The 2014 Godzilla featured a much darker paint job, with only subtle highlights of brown and blue to bring out the textures. It also had yellowish eyes and a dark red mouth. The 2019 version is much lighter in tone, and sports an additional application of lighter gray paint on the body, and almost light brown dirt-looking paint on the spines over the charcoal gray paint. This really lets the detail pop more on this version. When you look at them closely side by side, it's really apparent. I think this paint job is vastly superior to that of the 2014 one, at least for the body and spines. All the scales and bumps look fantastic. One of the main issues I have though with this new figure is the head. I think I remember reading that NECA uses a completely new mold for this figure based on digital files from the new film. But these appear almost identical. I mean, I know it's the same Godzilla, but I feel if it were an entirely new mold, there'd be a little more obvious differences. Now, of course, there are things that I previously mentioned that reflect the changes to the character in the movie. His spines are much larger. According to the director, they are made to look like the 54 spines. They do look impressive on this figure, and are my favorite part of it. The highlighted detail with all the different lines on the plates look really awesome. The toes are another thing that's different. For King of the Monsters, the elephant-like feet from the 2014 version are gone, with this new version having much longer nails. The nails are also painted on this figure, unlike the 2014 version that were unpainted. The tail is different on the 2019 one too, featuring a more classic-looking Godzilla tail as opposed to the 2014's whip-like tail. But outside of those new features to the 2019 Godzilla, the figure feels more like a retool than an entirely new one, which is fine for me because the 2014 version wasn't really a bad figure to begin with. However, moving back to the head, there's one thing I prefer on the 2014 version over the 2019, and it kinda hurts this figure a bit for me. That's the eyes. On one side of mine, it's not painted on right, so that might just be a problem of mine and not for everyone. But overall, they just look kinda crazy. Like, it looks like Godzilla just walked in on something he didn't want to see. It just doesn't look right. Maybe the later Atomic Breath version will eliminate the issues I have. I really wanted to love this figure, but those eyes really bring it down a notch for me. Moving on to the articulation, the majority is the same as the 2014 release. There's 3 joints around the head that allow for movement, including one to open the jaw. The torso is also on a joint, but you won't get a ton of movement out of it, which was sort of the case with NECA's 1962 Godzilla. The arms have what appears to be 3 points of articulation. The upper one and the one near the hand move fine, but I can't get the middle one to move on either arm for mine. It's sort of weird because I can get movement on my 2014 one at the same spot. Not sure if it's just my figure or not. The legs also have 3 points. The legs themselves can go back and forth, but also in and out a little bit. The rest of the joints on the leg move pretty well on my figure, but again about the same as the 2014 version. Where this version really shines above the 2014 version is the tail, which, like the recently released NECA Godzilla 1962, it features ball joints going down the tail. The 2014 version relied on a bendy wire, which didn't allow for a whole lot of movement. That's not the case with this one, where you can get plenty of movement out of it. This is a solid upgrade over the 2014 version, and I'm glad NECA went this route with their new Godzilla figures. Before we move on to my score for this figure, let's do some quick comparisons. Here it is with the SH Monster Art Spitfire Godzilla 2014. Here it is with the NECA Godzilla 2001. it is with the NECA Godzilla 1994. Here it is with the NECA Godzilla 1962. And finally, here it is with the NECA Shin Godzilla. For a rating out of 10, I give this one an 8. For the most part, it builds on top of an already strong Godzilla 2014 figure, and I'm a big fan of the design changes to the 2019 Godzilla that this figure captures really well. Its paint is a drastic improvement over the previous version, though like I mentioned, the eyes are an issue for me. I think with better eyes, this figure would have won me over a little more. The articulation is also pretty good, especially the tail. I do recommend picking this one up, though part of me feels like recommending you wait for the Atomic Blast version if you already have the 2014 version. But yeah, I think it's a solid figure. And that does it for the NECA Godzilla 2019. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe. Thanks for watching and see you next time.